6. Then he's coming at 6.
Is he online?
I haven't heard him yet.
Well, and that one was too. I think they just got him back online today, somebody said. I know. I'd like to welcome you to the November 18th West Des Moines City Council meeting. Please join us for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, please sign in, and Councilman Michelson's going to be on the phone from 5:30 to 6, and then he should be in the chambers.
I'm here.
All right, thanks, John.
We have 4 members present in the chambers and 1 on the phone.
All right, Ryan, any changes to the agenda?
There is one change. Staff is removing item 7A, to plat a survey for excess property related to Grand Prairie Parkway. That item is not needed, so.
Move approval of the agenda as amended.
All right.
I'd like to hold an item on the consent agenda.
Yeah, we're not there yet. Okay. All right, so please vote on the amended council agenda for tonight.
Aye.
5 yes.
All right, item 2 is citizens forum, which is the time for anyone in the audience who would like to address the city council on any item that is not part of public hearings, which is item 6. New business item 7, and also if we have residents here on the dog situation on 9th Street, we're going to wait until other matters under 9A. So with those exceptions, if anybody else is here to address the council, please come up to the podium. Okay. Item 3 are mayor, city council, city manager, and other entity updates. Jim?
This time, Your Honor.
All right, Kevin?
Nothing this time.
Russ?
Nothing at this time.
Renee?
Nothing at this time.
Tom?
Report, Your Honor.
All right, I wanted to mention that we're having some renovations done to the city hall. So the next 3 city council meetings will actually be held in the Learning Resource Center, which is where the school board meets. So that would be the 2 meetings in December and the first meeting in January. The notices will go out, but we wanted to give everybody a heads up tonight about the meeting location changes.
And Steve, also with that, I believe that they are not going to be broadcast live on the website, correct, Ryan?
Correct.
They'll be televised or
It'll be
broadcast the next
posted
day.
after the fact.
Yes.
Okay.
Because I know
So-
there's a lot of people that watch online live, so.
So they'll be taped and then they'll be played, Ryan, after the meeting?
Correct.
Okay. All right, item 4, consent agenda. I know Renee wants to.
We did have another item under
Oh,
other
sorry.
entities
Great,
updates.
yeah, sorry. Greater Dallas County Development Alliance update. Sorry, and we actually got some written information. So whoever's here on behalf of that organization, if you come up and share the relevant information with us, we'd appreciate it. Sorry.
Mr. Mayor, council members, thank you for having me. Sincerely appreciate it. I'm Alex Broderick. I'm the acting president of the Greater Dallas County Development Alliance. I believe in your supporting materials, you received a copy of our annual report.
Yep.
I just wanted to come in front of you today so that way you could put a face.
Okay, could you go behind them? Yeah, so there you go.
Alex Broderick with the Greater Dallas County Development Alliance. Address is 6900 West Town Parkway here in West Des Moines. Work at Hubble Realty Company and serve on the Alliance. Just wanted to come in front of all of you today and say thank you so much for your support. We really appreciate the input of Clyde and the rest of the West Des Moines team and the partnership. Dallas County's had another record year. And we look forward to that continued partnership. I know most recently we worked with you on the RISE grant for the Salmons installation for their new business out there. Any questions of me that I can take back to the group from council members and the mayor?
Yeah, no, I mean, you guys are a really good economic development organization. I know how hard you work and the material you have.
Thank you.
I know that the Dallas County Mayor's Group, when we meet, we often meet in your headquarters, and you guys help facilitate that, so we appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks for all you do on economic development. Really appreciate it.
We appreciate
Assistance.
your support.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Alex.
Mr. Mayor, I
Yeah.
do have one thing.
Okay.
Announcement, not for you,
Not
Alex.
for me, all right.
You're off the hook.
Yeah, yeah.
Good job, Alex.
Thank you.
next
Just
time.
something I want to report that the city of West Des Moines, starting next year in 2020, will be celebrating MLK for our holiday for our staff workers versus President's Day. So we're not gaining additional holiday. We're just trading one for MLK Day as a recommendation by our Human Rights Commission. And it won't be for some of our public service folks because they have union contractual issues, and we'll bring that along when it's time. But it'll be a day of service, and we're very excited to make that announcement.
Okay. Thank you. Renee?
Yeah, I'd just like to just add a little commentary. I want to thank Tom Haddon for his leadership on that recommendation. I'm really proud to be sitting on this dais and hearing that the city of West Des Moines will honor that day. And it's really a national holiday that really is all about service. So it's really not a day off. I'm hoping that employees will take advantage of it to do civic engagements and service projects. But Tom, I want to thank you for your leadership in that. And I think it says well for what we're trying to do in this city to show that we're inclusive and mindful of all the kinds of things that are important to every person. So I just want to be on record saying I really appreciate the direction we're going.
And we appreciate the Human Rights Commission. I know they're very active and coming up with a lot of great ideas. We've expanded that board, so more great things to come from that commission.
Thank you.
And Renee, I know you're the liaison to that group, so thank you for that.
You're welcome.
Item 4, consent agenda. I know Renee wants to pull 4A to amend the minutes, but are there any other items that any council member wants to pull? Otherwise, I'd take a motion for the
I'd
rest.
move the remainder.
Second.
All right, please vote.
Aye.
5 yes.
All right, Renee, 4A, the minutes from the November 4th City Council meeting.
Yeah, thank you. I really just wanted to have my comments reflected in the minutes. I did speak to the issue of what was going on with the dog. My name was mentioned when there was testimony from the audience. And so I spoke to that issue. And so if we can go back and listen to the tape, I'd really like my comments reflected in the minutes.
Okay, Ryan, can you guys go
That
back
possible?
and transcribe Renee's comments into these minutes?
Yep.
Thank you.
Renee, you want to move the minutes as will be amended?
I move the minutes as amended.
All right, please vote.
Aye.
5 yes.
All right, item 5, old business. 5A, Midtown redevelopment, east side of 8th Street, 1221 and 1261. Establish a plan unit development to allow development of a vertical commercial and residential mixed-use development, J-Core LLC. It's an ordinance for the second, third reading, final adoption. There are no changes from the first reading.
Move consideration of second reading.
Second.
Questions or comments?
I would just say this is going to be a great development when it's done. I know that they're going to take a site and buildings that, need to be rehabilitated. We could have additional value that the city would get from the taxes that they're going to pay. And once this thing is redeveloped, I think that's going to happen. You're going to see a big increase in the value of the site. So, and a lot of great businesses in this area.
Right. Okay, please vote.
Aye.
5 yes, an ordinance amending the official zoning map in the city code of the city of West Des Moines, Iowa, 2019 by amending Title IX zoning, Chapter 9 Plan Unit Development District pertaining to PUD district regulations and guidelines.
Move approval of the second reading.
Second.
All right, please vote.
Aye.
5 yes.
Move waiver of third reading and adoption in final form.
Second.
All right, please vote.
Aye.
5 yes.
5B, Jordan Creek Urban Renewal Area, terminate the urban renewal area and repeal ordinances 1414, 1559, 2203, and 2313, city initiated. This is an ordinance for the second, third reading, final adoption. There are no changes from the first reading.
Move consideration of second reading.
Second.
Questions or comments? I guess I'm going to reiterate what we did on the first reading because this is pretty phenomenal. This tax increment
Yep.
financing district has generated $688 million in new valuation. And I haven't gone back to add up what the city's investment in infrastructure is, but I remember it was about $65 million for Jordan Creek Town Center, and I can't recall if this includes Wells Fargo and Aviva. But even if it did, you know, we're still looking at somewhere around $100 million of infrastructure to generate $688 million of value, let alone all the jobs. So I think this Jordan Creek Town Center Urban Renewal District is probably the best example ever in the state of Iowa of how to use tax increment financing to everybody's benefit. So we had former Councilman Parks here, so this goes back to the early 2000s. So there's been a lot of people involved in this, but we should reiterate how successful this has really been. So with that, please vote on the second reading.
Aye.
5 yes, an ordinance repealing ordinance numbers 1414, 1559, 2203, and 2313, which provided for the division of taxes levied on taxable property in the Jordan Creek urban renewal area.
Move approval of second reading.
Second.
All right, please vote.
Aye.
5 yes.
Move waiver of the third reading and adoption in final form.
Move. Second.
All right, please vote.
Wait a minute.
Aye.
I want to get the next one.
5 yes.
All right, item 6, we have a number of public hearings tonight. 6A, this is the type and place for a public hearing to consider 1,000 and 1100 South 60th Street, amend comprehensive plan land use map to change the land use designation from low-density residential to single-family residential, and change the zoning from residential estate to residential single-family, initiated by Toby Torgerson. Ryan, would you please read the date the notice was published?
November 1st, 2019, in the Des Moines Register.
Have we received any written comments?
Planning and Zoning Commission, by a vote of 7 yes, adopted a resolution recommending approval of the comp plan amendment and rezoning request. And there was also one correspondence received that was included with the council communication.
Okay. Now would be the time for anyone in the audience who would like to address the city council on item 6A. Okay, if you'll come up to the podium and share your name and address.
I live at 1205 Tulip Tree Lane, West Des Moines. So I actually live directly behind, maybe one house down from the proposed land use change. So my husband and I are both here. We are against the land use change. We actually moved here to West Des Moines from Southern California. This is the kind of thing you see happening on the West Coast all the time. This is one of the things we tried to get away from. Took a long time and probably looked at 80 houses before we picked the house that we did choose. One of the primary reasons we chose it was because we wanted to have less people around us, less noise, a little more quiet, a little bit closer to nature, but close to all the amenities that West Des Moines offers, which we feel like we got. And we actually really enjoy the woods that are behind us, and most especially the wilderness that we see living there. When we bought the house, we did our research. We knew that there were lots there. We actually talked to a neighbor who said they were probably going to come up for sale, but that they were zoned for property similar to where we live. Okay, that sounded fine, because those are the kind of properties that I think are most appropriate in that part. There aren't any other neighborhoods south of Mill Civic on 60th that have any kind of higher density housing than approximately, I'd say, houses on acres. There aren't cul-de-sacs, there aren't, the kind of neighborhoods we left in Southern California. There's plenty of that in West Des Moines. There really isn't a need for that in this area. So we did our homework and we chose the house that we did because of the zoning that exists now. I'm sure most of my neighbors did the same. I don't really think it's appropriate to then change it because someone else who bought the land now wants to do something different. He could have bought land where the zoning allowed for multi-density housing. Instead, he bought the land, or she or whomever, the developer, bought these lots and now wants to change the zoning to accommodate those interests. But the interests of the people that have already lived there, I think, should be taken into consideration. So the other thing I wanted to mention is the low-density housing that's there now is consistent. The zoning that's there now is consistent with the other neighbors in the area. There's really, I don't see any need to change that. And I do think the impact, I care probably more about anything about the impact on the wilderness. I mean, I watch the deer herd that comes through every single morning and every single evening. I think with 1 or 2 new houses on that side of the street, probably wouldn't disrupt things too much. But I think you add 12 more houses and the driveways and the cars and the traffic and the garbage trucks and all that, I think it's gonna dramatically change the little piece of wilderness that's there that, you know, there's a reason why a lot of us chose to live on that street. And we're very carefully choosing that. And I don't know why someone else then gets to come in and change something because of their investment interests. I don't think there's a need to do it, and so we would just like to express that this is something we're absolutely against.
Okay. Thank you, Helen. Anyone else for the public hearing?
Ryan Hartsey, civil engineer, Civil Design Advantage, 405 Southeast Crossroads Drive, Grimes, Iowa. We're a civil engineer working with Toby on this development, and we'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have on the proposed design for the site.
Can you put up the
Map.
layout?
Yeah. I have Exhibit B and Exhibit C. It'd be helpful to see.
Sure. So Tulip Tree Lane to the south at Glen Oaks, there are 9 properties adjacent to this. Average lot size for the 9 lots adjacent to this is 19,200 square feet.
About half an acre. Not quite half an
Not
acre.
quite half.
0.4 acres, whatever.
Sure. So our proposed 12-lot subdivision has an average lot size of 35,000 square feet. So
Well, 0.8 or something.
yeah, so larger than
Double.
almost double what the adjacent
Can you
lots.
make that a little smaller so that
Yeah,
we can
we
see
can
the
see all
lots to the south, to the bottom part of the sheet here, or Ryan, or how do we make,
Zoom out. or
zoom
something.
out? How do you
The
zoom out?
scrolls to zoom in and out.
So Ryan, will the 12 houses
Here we
fill
go.
out that entire site? Will that completely develop the site?
That is correct.
You know, and again, I mean, if you go back to when Glen Oaks was originally formed, I think they had a 10 or 11-story apartment project that was approved on this corner. We have multiple retail projects that have been approved here. I am stunned that anyone's willing to build just 12 single-family residential houses. I know, Helen, you and your husband aren't happy, but this is a heavily traveled, very commercial corner. And I think the residents ought to be very thankful that there's only 12 single-family houses, because this was going to be an intense use. And when Glen Oaks was actually developed, this was approved for a 10-story apartment project.
Are we talking about the same area? Is this on a corner? Isn't this south? This is south of the
That's-
corner,
this is
about
south
a quarter mile or something, isn't it?
Just south of, I think.
South.
South of that corner.
Maybe.
So how far up, because they're clearing all the trees?
It's
right?
south of there.
Okay, so I thought this was on the corner, so this is not.
Do you have a map that shows?
Yeah.
And I don't
Yeah.
know what.
It's
what-
Exhibit B.
Exhibit B, yes.
Do you have Exhibit B? It's called the comprehensive land use map.
Yeah, and show where it is. in
1,1100
relation
South
to the
60th.
corner.
Show where it is, that would be helpful.
And I don't know, Lynn, if someone from the staff wants to share a little background on this parcel as well.
Well, and I've got a question too, because residential estate lots are lots that are 40,000 square feet and up, right?
I'm sorry, what,
Residential estate lots are 40,000 square feet and up?
RE residential estate is typically a minimum of 40,000 square feet.
Okay, and these lot sizes are what?
An average lot of 35,566.
The plan I saw, the smallest lot was about 19,000 square feet. That would have been the ones on the,
So it depends
towards
on
the
what
north
lot.
here.
Orient
So
that
this
north and
development-
south, okay.
Yeah, this development's here. So a couple of these are smaller in the 19, 20,000 square foot range.
Can we zoom out a little bit?
Yeah. Please, so they can,
I know which way I gotta go here.
I guess
way-
what I'm trying to think of is what they could actually do if
As far
we,
as I can
if
go.
this wasn't changed, how many residential estate lots could they fit on here without any change at all?
How many
5?
acres do you have?
It's 9.8.
So roughly 9.
So they're going from 9 to 12.
There's 3 more lots on here than they could do if we didn't change anything at all.
Correct.
But it's also the setback
Yeah, we're just talking density right now.
density.
It's not RE, we're not zoning to RE. Partly, we weren't zoning to RE because of the setbacks. But yes, you are gaining 3 additional homes on here by not having RE 1A, which would be a minimum of 40,000 square foot
Well,
lots.
isn't 40,000 is an average, not to get technical here, but isn't it 44,000 per acre, 44,000 square feet per acre, and it's 40,000? on a-
Roughly.
43,560.
43.5,
is
yeah.
an
Okay, so
acre.
it's exactly the size of an
So
acre, it's not really 40,000.
40,000 is what we use
Yeah.
as that
Right.
acre
Right.
mark. The problem you would have if you try to force acre lots in some of these,
Yeah.
you're gonna have to cut more, you're gonna do more damage to the trees, to the grading and everything else. So this one, by doing smaller lots, you actually can place them in there a little bit easier and save more of what's there.
It's not as though
You
they're
can see
small
they're
lots,
not
they're,
doing necessarily any grading to the south here.
Where's the tree line at that Mrs. Hardwood was talking about?
Pretty much this whole thing is trees right now.
Okay, so the properties that back up to Tulip Tree Lane, will those trees be saved? This is a question for you. Is there any plan to save any trees? Are you gonna clear cut it and just build?
No, with the large lots that we're doing, we want to save as many trees as possible.
But I mean, the smaller ones that abut the houses on Tulip Tree Lane.
Yeah, my understanding from
to the
Toby
east.
is they will try to keep as much of this back here as they can.
That is correct.
When we plat, we can even put it into a conservation easement to hold those trees there. What we've done on the one on Grand Avenue, the infill that we did on Grand Avenue, we did if you take away a tree, you have to put in X amount of trees. So there's some things we can do as far as platting. Like I said, initial discussion is they were gonna keep as much of this back here as we can, as much of this back here that can be saved. So
And does
we
this
really want
land-
to do the minimal amount to be able to
Okay,
get the lots
are you
back.
suggesting that by this land use change, that they're actually gonna get a better buffer than that they would have with 9 houses? Because you'd have to clear cut more of it?
You probably would have to clear cut, because of the way you'd have to bring this road in, the way it changes, trying to get that 40,000 square foot lot pushes us roads and the grading a little bit, probably a little bit more extensive.
Okay.
You can kind of see by the way the big lots are here, you're
Yep.
really not touching this part of that south probably.
Okay.
So a lot of this still comes to be found out with the plating, but right now this would be 12 lots is what we're assuming it can be.
Instead of the comp plan allows 9?
Yeah, and you'll notice as part of this plan, what we intend to do is get the first reading of approval. We will hold off on second and third readings until we get the actual plats to go through, because we don't want to change it to an R1 zoning and then have this developer walk away, somebody else who comes in and says, I'm R1, I can do a 7,500 square foot lot.
right,
I got my
right.
30 lots. in
I
it."
agree.
So we are holding off on finishing the actual approvals until we can have the plats actually go through, and then
So-
we can see what exactly we have.
So you're saying that it's not definite there's gonna be 12 lots, but can we hold them to not more than 12 lots?
You could put it as a condition, Dick, I guess it'd be your call, if we want to make a condition on the approval that it can be no more than 12 lots. I
A
don't
little
know why we couldn't-
unorthodox, usually you have to go with the zoning that it's allowed out there, but I
Okay.
suppose you could limit it to that based upon the topography and the trees.
How confident are you that your client is gonna put in 12 lots?
I'm very confident.
Very confident. Would
And
you be
so-
opposed to that
That's why
restriction?
We're in agreement with staff's recommendation on holding
Mm-hmm.
the remaining readings until it is recorded. That way you're locked in to the
Okay.
lots.
What's the setback on these lots? This is a,
35 feet rear yard.
35 rear yard, and front 35, and side 20?
Not in R1, no.
Oh, yeah, that's like 7 and 8, isn't
7 and
it?
8.
Total of 15 or something, or between structures, like,
Well, the math doesn't work out. It's 7 and 8 is what your side yards are.
Yeah.
5 would be your rear yard. And then probably a 30-foot front yard is what we would have on these.
can we do it more like a modified RE1, like an estate lot? So 35 on front and 35 on back and 20 on sides, is it, give a little more, you'll probably do that anyway, so I'm guess I'm not concerned about that, but I'm just wondering about, I'm not sure how that protects the neighbors, I need to be honest with you.
I think the rear yard setbacks was gonna protect the neighbors.
I agree with that.
Yeah,
Well, I
It's a
guess,
35.
and I don't think 35, I don't think we're really getting anything more than that.
and they can work on the buffer with the
Yeah.
neighbors, especially if you can show that they're getting a better buffer by this change.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I think if
yeah.
we can restrict it
Yeah,
in some way to 12 lots and that conservation easement you were talking about, I think that would be definitely a good thing.
I agree.
Okay, let me see if
And
there's
all of
any,
that will come with the plating of the.
Right.
with the plating, and you're gonna work on the plats before they do the final reading on the ordinance. Yep. Okay, let me see if there's anyone else for the public hearing. Okay. Seeing no one else, we'll declare the public hearing closed. I guess the first thing is the resolution to approve the comprehensive plan amendment, and then the second one is the ordinance, which I think, Dick, is a part of the ordinance, would the limitation be on no more than 12 houses?
Yeah, we could do that.
Okay.
I'll move the ordinance,
So,
first.
The
item.
comprehensive
We'll
plan.
need to re-sign in since John arrived.
John?
5 members present.
Okay, so Jim has moved the approval of the comprehensive plan amendment. Is there a second?
Second.
Any other questions or comments on the comprehensive plan amendment?
So the plan is to move approval of, I guess, comp plan amendment, the first reading, and then between the first and the second reading, we're going to ferret out some of the issues that we've had here, take a look at what the plat's going to be, and have further discussion before it comes back to us, correct?
Yes, and it won't be back to you for quite a while. It'll take a while to go through the preliminary plat and the final plat process.
So putting-
You will actually see those documents before you see the final reading. What we'll do is tag
Okay.
team the final second and third reading along with the final plat approval and do them together at that point.
Okay.
And will the Harwoods and the other residents back there get notified of the plats so they can understand what's being
We
suggested?
typically do not as part of platting.
Okay.
We would renotice the second and third reading, but that would then be the final plat that would be going through. Certainly, we get their email, we can reach out to them and let them know when we have the plats and.
I think that'd be good.
Yeah, if you guys would like to share your email, then you can get the plats from the start. Okay.
An approval of the first reading, if we put in there the 12 lots, it's almost like a safety valve, if you will, in case things don't work out, because you're willing to wait on the second and third readings. But if something does fall apart, that 12 kind of gives us, and that's okay, Dick, you're saying?
Yeah, we could do that. So
Okay, I'll move
Along
that.
with the conservation buffer.
The first reading, limited to no more than 12 lots, and the conservation, you said that'd be no problem too? Throw that in
Yeah,
too.
we need to
Conservation.
vote
On
on
the
the
first one.
comprehensive plan amendment first.
Yep.
So.
Oh yeah, we haven't voted on that yet.
No,
Oh, I voted on it, I don't know what anyone else did.
No, I guess what I'd say is I'm willing to support this tonight to move it forward, but want to continue to have dialogue and talk to the residents, certainly. I'm not sure if you all realize that the way that it is currently, if we don't change it, they can develop 9 lots here. This is only an additional 3. So I don't know that that's awful, but of course, to you all, you'd rather have nothing there or one big lot, right? So,
Right, well, and that's the reason for the conservation easement, see if we can, and the setback.
well,
the
and Ryan, it
restriction
might
of
be
12.
helpful to the Harwoods if you showed them how you'd lay 9 out versus the 12. I mean, I think if they feel more comfortable that you've protected more trees and stuff, then that may be more palatable to them as well. Okay.
Right.
Okay, so Ryan, do you have the votes on the comp plan?
Not yet.
Have to get them regular coffee.
5 yes.
Okay, second one is the ordinance for the first reading, which is where you can cap the
Yeah,
number of houses to
I'll move
12.
that along with the 12 lots and conservation easement.
Second.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, any other questions or comments on that? All right, please vote.
You have to press the yes button.
5 yes, an ordinance amending the official zoning map in the city code of the city of West Des Moines, Iowa, 2019 by amending Title IX zoning, Chapter 4 zoning districts and map.
Move for first reading.
Second.
All right, please vote.
5 yes.
6B, the city council is being asked to continue the public hearing to the December 2nd council meeting.
Second. Second.
All right, please vote.
5 yes.
All right, item 6C, this is the time and place for a public hearing to consider Dowling Catholic, 1400 Buffalo Road, establish a plan unit development to provide a framework for continued development and expansion of the school campus while fitting within the context of the established neighborhood, initiated by Dowling Catholic High School. Ryan, would you please read the date the notice was published?
November 1st, 2019, in the Des Moines Register.
Have we received any written comments?
The Plan and Zoning Commission, by a vote of 7 yes, adopted a resolution recommending approval of the PUD ordinance.
All right, now be the time for anyone in the audience who would like to address the city council on item 6C. Okay. If you'll share your name and your address with us, please.
Hello, my name is Dr. Dan Ryan, 1400 Buffalo Road. First of all, I want to thank you, Mayor and City Council members, for allowing us time to speak to you here. This is kind of an unusual situation. We were approached in August about the purchase of a home which adjoined our lot, and quickly 3 others were also made available. At this point, we don't have any final plans for the use of this space, but we are in a landlocked situation, and we thought that this was a good time to take control of a little bit of that land there. Possible uses down the road could be athletic fields, parking lots, those sorts of things, and we are in the process currently of looking at our physical building and also our campus to make plans for the future. So.
Great.
What's
Thank
your
you.
plans for the houses as they stand? Are you gonna rent them out, or are you gonna, so there'll be rentals until you decide what you're gonna
think
do with
we're
the
in a
properties?
Process of applying for the permit to be able to rent, or whatever process that is. And yes, currently, I think the past owners are still in those homes for a few months.
Okay.
And then they would be rented out.
Okay. Thank you. We'll see. Anyone else for the public hearing on item 6C?
Hi, I'm Leslie Keeley. I live at 1715 17th Street. And I don't know if they have the map up or not, but
We can
my
get one up.
home.
We can get it up. We'll get one up.
Okay. My backyard butts up to Dowling Soccer Field. And they're proposing putting, currently, I think it's just 1 soccer field going this way. Now they're proposing 2 soccer fields this way. And our concern is, will there be bleachers put up there that will butt up to, where our fence is? So we're concerned about that, the noise. They're talking about putting, I think, a 3-foot berm. Well, a 3-foot berm's not gonna do anything, when it butts up to our backyard. I mean, again, we bought our property and loved the idea that, that was all open space, and we can, survive soccer matches, it's not constant, but, they want to put in 2 synthetic turf, and so they'll be playing there, all the time. So that's a concern that we have. If they keep the houses as rental properties that they purchase, those 4 homes on 17th Street, will they have to come back to you to request permission to change that from residential to putting up, whether it be maintenance buildings or a building?
Not if
Then would
this
they have
goes
to come in
through.
with a site plan, right?
Site plan, yeah.
Yeah, so they would have to bring a site plan in and show you and us exactly what they want to do, and we would take public comment on the site plan.
Okay,
So none of that's being approved tonight.
okay,
And that way you would get a specific opportunity to look at the exact layout. My guess is they'll be talking to all the residents around what they want to do anyway before it actually gets here. Because I think they're all want you to be satisfied is what typically we see. But that all comes with the site plan, the berms, the layout, all the concerns you have right now will be dealt with at the site plan.
and/or I'm concerned that they'll put parking there.
But Lynn, this opens up the door, if this gets approved tonight as a PUD, for changes to occur.
Yes, eventually changes can occur, but anything that happens there would have to go through a site plan process of some kind. But
Wait.
yes, to that point, parking also could potentially be put on these, if you remove the houses, you could put parking up there too, possibly.
But that would be all part of the site plan
It would all be
process.
part of the site plan approval process.
So we would all be notified ahead of time and we could have our input in terms of what they want to do?
We would have public
Public
hearings,
Okay,
I guess-
Not on a site plan, we do not.
even
So
if it's,
they can get-
So,
Again, notification can happen, but the site plans themselves are not public hearing items.
sorry, we're
But
gonna
they're-
allow it. It's already been allowed if we approve this.
But we could request it in this case that we follow that people within 370 feet, which is what our traditional notification. We don't typically do that here, but we could in this case,
But you
right?
can't turn it down.
You can modify it with
I think
conditions.
you'd still have an argument basically on the effect to the neighborhood of whether or not you would want to allow it. I would think that clause would come into play if you say, I don't want those parking lots as close. Part of what we're doing here tonight is to make sure that we have ways to tackle buffering, mitigating any impacts that we have. It's really just given us a way to do a little bit more than just saying if it's residential against residential, I really don't have ways to put in buffering or require some of that buffering.
But none of that needs
So
done
that-
until something happens.
Right, nothing has to be done until something happens. So we will respond to what is being proposed and determine at that point what it makes the most sense. Is it a 3-foot berm? Is it a 6-foot fence? Is it shield the lightings, angle the lights this way? Is it pull it back from the property lines? Those things we won't know until we
Time
actually have
restrictions.
site plans.
But wouldn't a site plan be new business?
I'm sorry, what?
Site plan?
Site plans are just new business.
Yeah, so I mean, she's still gonna have a chance to come in and speak.
Yes, but
She
it's
just
not
won't
a
get
public
notice.
hearing
Hearing
notice in
where-
the sense that just because it's a project, we automatically send notices.
No, but I guess, yeah, I guess we have in circumstances where you're this close to residential neighborhoods, we just did it with the Harwoods, that
We can
we want to
flag,
notice them because we want comments, and I know the school would too.
we can flag the system so that as we have things, that this is a special case that's gonna get notification. That's what we can do in ours right now.
So can we suggest to Leslie that the PUD is going to give the city more ability to protect buffers and setbacks and conditions than if they just didn't come through with the PUD?
That would be my belief, yes. We have more teeth with a PUD than we would if it was just straight zone and we left those lots as R1s.
So, there's a lot of back and forth here. So bottom line is, would we have notification prior to them doing something?
We are going to flag the system. We don't normally, but we're going to flag the
Okay,
system
I-
such that, and then it will go through the normal notification process. So if you're a property within 370 feet of the affected area, you will get notice.
Okay, I think everybody we have several people here from our block
Okay.
we were all very concerned in terms of what's going on. And then in the paperwork, I was reading that if and when they do decide to do something with residential properties and cut them down, that if it's a primary educational building, then it will be 100 feet from property boundaries. But if it's a structure for accessory uses, it only has to be back 50 feet. And if I'm reading this correctly, it could be maintenance buildings, transportation buildings. If that goes on 17th Street, which is purely residential, that's going to change the whole feel of the street. Who wants to have anything that's commercial or whatever built on their street? We've lived there 28 years. My neighbors has lived there 59 years. Other people have lived there 29 years. I mean, we've got long-term residents. We love our neighborhood and we want to keep it the way it is.
I'm guessing Dowling's been a pretty good neighbor for those 22 years.
28 for
28
me,
years.
yes.
Yeah. So I mean, I would expect that whatever they do is going to have your input. They're not going to want to denigrate the value of all the residential.
Well,
homes.
that's another concern that we have.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't think that that's what's going to happen.
Well, my concern is because I think, the fourth house in off of Buffalo. And so that's where the soccer fields are going to be. And if they don't do soccer fields, our concern is they're going to have more parking there and/or a way to get back out to Buffalo Road from right behind my house.
Lynn, again, is that all site plan issue?
That's all site plan issues.
So any of the residents here who want to be notified of the site plans when they get submitted, please let us know who you are so
Okay.
you can get input. We obviously are going to ask the school to talk with you guys as well. But any of the residents here that have any of these same concerns will be addressed at site plan time.
Okay,
Make sure we have your contact information. We'll
Okay.
make sure you get notified.
thank you. And who do I give that to?
Well, Tom, can we just put a notepad over there and just have any of the
Sure.
residents who are here that want a specific notification, just have you sign up over here, and we'll make sure that we put you in the
Thank you for your
system. Yep. All right, others for the public hearing on 6C.
Jim May, 1442 17th Street, West Des Moines. I've lived there almost 55 years. A lot of my questions was answered just now on this. One thing I'd say is, I don't want a football field put across the street from my house. I'm right across from that driveway on 17th Street now.
Okay.
And the deal about the people went to them to purchase them, I have a hard time following that, because the first house north of the driveway, that guy just built it, probably a $10,000 garage behind his house. I have a hard time believing that you do that and then go and ask them to buy your property. And I think there's a few others up the street's been contacted too. So, but I would like notified on anything.
Okay. Well, yeah, Mr. May, just make sure that you let us have your contact information over here. Yep.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Others for the public hearing?
My name is Amber Niggin. I live at 1714 17th Street. And again, a lot of my questions and concerns were answered, but I also want to say that I am extremely opposed to this. I have young children. This neighborhood is such a quiet, peaceful neighborhood. We do not want sporting events, and I think about all the lights and the noise and things going on the weekends. And yeah, so I'm just, opposed, but I would, like to stay in touch with any of the changes.
Yeah,
But
Amber,
it's
just let us have
definitely-
your stuff and we'll make sure you get heads up of anything that's going to come through the system. All right, others for the, all right.
Hello, my name is Steve Bush. I live at 1522 17th Street, directly across from one of the houses of the four that recently transferred ownership. And I would just like this, I'm against the whole idea too, like most all the other neighbors. But I want to address right now something in Exhibit 1 that I got here, dealing with the berm. I also got issues with that setback thing, but last week, Mr. City Planner, Mr.
Munford?
Yes, spoke about how in many areas of the city, when there's been other issues like this come up, it has been the standard to use a 3-foot berm. Well, I'm here to tell you, in this neighborhood, that's not going to be sufficient, because on the west side of the street where many of us live, our houses are about 3 to 4 feet elevated from the people on the east side. Thus, it's just like a couple hours ago, I was talking with my neighbor to the south, and she was here last week. A 3-foot, it will take at least a 6-foot fence on a 3-foot berm, or else that berm is going to be irrelevant, because the area where Dowling is, and been back of these people's houses, backyards of the people whose houses have already transferred ownership, their backyards are much lower than our porches, for example, our front steps. So a 3-foot berm will not stop any headlights. There's hundreds and hundreds of cars parked there now, just east of where these people live. So I would just plead with you to address this issue. 3 foot is not sufficient in our neighborhood.
I think, Mr. Bush, when they come in with a site plan, we can put conditions on there, the council can, that would include a fence. We have to wait and see what they actually want to do and how it's going to impact you. But the council is free, and I'm sure that the applicant will work with staff on trying to come up with conditions of the property that make it palatable to people before they actually come. But the council's got the freedom to require whatever they think is appropriate.
I appreciate that, Mr. Mayor. I really do, and I will sign that list over there. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Did anyone else for the public hearing? Okay. I'll declare the public hearing closed. Again, this is just an ordinance for the first reading. Someone want to move?
Move approval.
Second.
Len, can you explain to me why this needs to happen now? Why would you do a planned unit development when there is no plan? Why can't they own these houses, rent them out, and then when they decide what they want to do, then come and get the PUD and go through this process? Why does it have to happen now? So what's the advantage and why are they, maybe Dowling needs to answer, why are we doing it now instead of next year, 5 years, 10 years, who knows? I mean, I don't,
Quite honestly, because the site plans are gonna control what really happens on the property, it really doesn't matter when you put the PUD in place. PUD was just the main parcel and picking up the additional ground that's now being part of Dowling's property.
this soccer field that they're talking about, can that go in today? I mean, this has not been approved, so today, could that soccer field to the north end go in?
Yep, they could.
Okay. I still struggle with why you do something, get everybody stirred up when you have no idea what's gonna happen, because they could just as easily decide, we're just gonna move the Dowling campus and these houses stay there, so it was all for naught. I just think you're getting everybody stirred up for no reason at all.
Well, again, a lot of times we tell people if you don't want something to happen next to you, you purchase it and you take it under your control. This is what Dowling is doing, is they're giving themselves the options in the future to have to do what they need to do, whatever that really.
But there's nothing stopping them from going and throwing more money and more money and more money and buying all the houses going north. I mean, if you throw enough money at somebody, even if my house isn't for sale, you throw enough money at me and, okay, I guess I sold my house. So I don't know. I just struggle with this.
I don't know if that's their intention, but what's wrong with that?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm not sure that's their
Why do you
intention,
want
but-
all the houses to go away?
Well, they're landlocked. I mean,
Well, and the houses, do they want to be back, for the very reason we've been talking about? Do they want to back up to a soccer field, or would they rather have all this land up to the road? I mean, I'm not sure Dowling's asking for that, but I'm not sure why I'd be opposed to it.
if they wanted to, that's fine.
Right.
We don't know if they want to do that.
Then you get the people on the west side that.
No one has to sell.
Well, again, doing the PUD gives us better protections for the homeowners and whatnot. Rather than just leaving it as is, they can tear the house down and we don't have the same protections as a PUD would allow.
If you look at Valley, if you look at Valley on the west side, they have houses across the street. They don't have houses on the east side of the street. There's houses on the west side of, I think it's 39th Street or whatever it is.
Valley was there first. That's the difference.
The city.
This is expanding
The city
after.
has the control, especially with the PUD, to come in and modify that PUD at any given time. If we wanted to come in and say we want a 50-foot setback off of 17th Street for anything that develops, or a 100-foot setback, that's in the city's discretion. We're kind of working with Dowling to say, think about what you need to do long range. Come talk to us when you start figuring these things out. Right now, my understanding is there is no real plans. The most things we've heard about is potentially the practice soccer fields that are up in the corner. That could happen today. It doesn't matter if it's in PUD or not. We actually have better buffering requirements because of the PUD against here than we do if we just said, go at it today. I don't have anything that would really require me to say that.
Okay, so the PUD is encompassing the entire property and gives us then the ability to do what you just said, where if you don't have this PUD, they can start building. Okay.
A PUD gives you more zoning regulations than just straight zoning would on a piece of property.
And I'd just like to add too that this is helpful to get information in advance. Oftentimes, we as city leaders are accused of not having advance information to folks, and everything's all a done deal before anyone can even open up their mouths. And this is a classic example of more information available to us than not. And so while we have some disagreements about who wants what and who sells who and who buys and who sells, I think everybody gets to make that decision for themselves if they want to sell. But I think it's helpful to have information in advance of situations so we can have healthy discussions about it. Because there are oftentimes things are done so far in advance, or not in advance, people don't get enough notice, they're upset because they don't have any opportunity. So this is a classic example how I'm hoping the system allows for the engagement that we need from folks in that area.
Right, and it was recommended to us that we just try and be proactive. Obviously, before my time, there's a long history of us working together on various projects and remodeling of buildings, and we were really just moving in that direction. And as we're continuing to plan, we will be reaching out to the neighbors to try and understand what their concerns are. And again, all of the documents you're seeing are very preliminary sketches. I know there was a great concern about a soccer field. We don't know if there would be a soccer field in that area at this point where the drawing is on the exhibit. If somebody is worried about a football stadium being on campus, I can tell you there is not sufficient room on our campus for a football stadium at all.
Okay.
So thank you, and we
Sure.
appreciate that.
Okay. All right, so it's been moved and seconded for the first reading of the ordinance.
Okay, I'll support this only because it locks up the entire property. I think that protects the neighbors to what some of the things they brought up.
5 yes, an ordinance amending the official zoning map in the city code of the city of West Des Moines, Iowa, 2019 by amending Title IX zoning, Chapter 9, Plan Unit Development District pertaining to PUD district regulations and guidelines.
I think John moved it originally.
Move. So what do I-
Second,
Approval of the.
Move approval of the first reading.
second.
All right, please vote.
5 yes.
All right, item 6D, the council's being asked to continue the public hearing to the December
Move.
2nd council
Second.
meeting. All right, please vote.
5 yes.
6E, this is the time and place for a public hearing to consider amendment to City Code Title 9 zoning, Chapter 2 zoning rules and definitions, Title 10 subdivision regulations, Chapter 3 design standards and required improvements, modify setbacks for corner lots and certain lot configurations initiated by the City of West Des Moines. Ryan, would you please read the date the notice was published?
November 1st, 2019, in the Des Moines Register.
Are there any written comments?
The Planning and Zoning Commission, by a vote of 7 yes, adopted a resolution recommending approval of the ordinance amendment.
Right now be the time for anyone in the audience who would like to address the council on item 6E. Okay. Seeing no one, I'll declare the public hearing closed. This is an ordinance for the first reading. It came through the Development and Planning Council Subcommittee as well.
Move consideration of the first reading.
Second.
Lynn, this is a question for the people watching at home, because I know there's several that do. What is then the setback on a side yard? What is it today, and what does this change it to, so that everybody, because obviously all they're seeing is the agenda item, so.
And this is only for corner lots
Yes.
where the corner lot backs to another corner lot.
What this does, when you have a lots in this configuration, so corner lot backs, two corner lots, they back up to each other.
We don't have your,
Traditionally, we would have applied a 30-foot or a 35-foot front yard on both of these because they're both streets. When you're in this situation, this really is the front yard, so this puts down to a 20-foot side yard on the side there. Only happens in this situation. And the only other time that it happens is when you're on, actually have 3 street frontages, so a corner lot, street, street, street. We treat these two as the fronts with the 30 to 35s because they're a double frontage lot. We give them the 20-foot option on this side here. That's the only situations that you can do this, but it gives them a little bit more buildable area to work with.
Makes sense.
all right.
Okay, please vote.
5 yes, an ordinance amending the city code of the city of West Des Moines, Iowa, 2019, Title 9 zoning, Chapter 2 zoning rules and definitions, and Title 10 subdivision regulations, Chapter 3 design standards and required improvements to modify setbacks for corner lots and certain lot configurations.
Move approval of the first reading.
Second.
Okay, please vote.
5 yes.
6F, this is the time and place for a public hearing to consider amendment to City Code Title 9 zoning, Chapter 7 setback and bulk density regulations, and Chapter 14 accessory structures. Update regulations for accessory structures of non-residential uses in residential zoning districts, initiated by the City of West Des Moines. Ryan, would you please read the date the notice was published?
November 1st, 2019, in the Des Moines Register.
Have you received any written comments?
The Planning and Zoning Commission, by a vote of 7 yes, adopted a resolution recommending approval of the ordinance amendment.
All right, now be the time for anyone in the audience who would like to address the City Council on item 6F. Seeing no one, I'll declare the public hearing closed. Again, it's an ordinance for the first reading, and this came through the Development and Planning Council Subcommittee on November 4th as well. Someone want to move it?
Move consideration of the first reading.
Second.
Second.
Questions or comments? All right, please vote.
5 yes, an ordinance amending Title 9 zoning, Chapter 7 setback and bulk density regulations, and Chapter 14 accessory structures to update regulations for accessory structures of non-residential uses and residential zoning districts.
Move approval of the first reading.
Second.
All right, please vote.
5 yes.
6G, this is the time and place for a public hearing to consider agreement for private development initiated by Willie T. LLC and Coffee Cats LLC. Ryan, would you please read the date the notice was published?
November 8th, 2019, in the Des Moines Register.
Have we received any written comments?
None, Your Honor.
Right now would be the time for anyone in the audience who would like to address the city council on item 6G. Seeing no one, I'll declare the public hearing closed. It's a resolution to approve the agreement, and there are no outstanding issues.
Move approval of the agreement.
Second.
Any other questions or comments? Okay, please vote.
5 yes.
6H, this is a time and place for a public hearing to consider the 2019 sanitary sewer cleaning and televising program initiated by the city of West Des Moines. Ryan, would you please read the date the notice was published?
November 8th, 2019, in the Des Moines
Have we
Register.
received any written comments?
None, Your Honor.
Right now be the time for anyone in the audience who like to address the city council on item 6H. All right, seeing no one, I'll declare the public hearing closed. We have 2 resolutions and a motion which we can take together.
Move approval.
Second.
Questions or comments? All right, please vote.
5 yes.
All right, new business, item 7 was removed from the agenda. Item 7B, amendment to City Code Title 6, Motor Vehicles and Traffic, Chapter 9, Traffic Schedules, Section 1, Official Traffic Controls, EP True Parkway and 78th Place, Grand Avenue and Scenic Valley Drive, and Mill Civic Parkway and South 88th Street. City initiated its ordinance for the first reading and came through Public Services Council Subcommittee.
Move consideration of the first reading.
Second.
Questions or comments?
I would just say that the traffic signal at Grand Avenue and Scenic Valley Drive is going to be awesome. This is going to help people cross into the park safely. So I can't wait to have that up. I know it's just about there.
Okay, please vote.
5 yes, in ordinance amending the city code of the city of West Des Moines, Iowa, 2019 by amending provisions pertaining to the traffic code relating to official traffic controls.
Is there a motion to approve the first reading?
Move approval of the first reading.
Second.
All right, please vote.
5 yes.
7C, amendment to City Code Title 6, Motor Vehicles and Traffic, Chapter 9, Traffic Schedules, Section 2, Through Street Stop Required, Veterans Parkway, East Corporate Limits to Western Terminus of Veterans Parkway, South Grand Prairie Parkway, North Corporate Limits to Raccoon River, and Southwest Grand Prairie Parkway, Raccoon River to Southern Terminus of South Grand Prairie Parkway. City initiated this also as an ordinance for the first reading.
Move consideration of the first reading.
Second.
Questions or comments?
I just say I watched Thompson out a video of a drone that flew a lot of these areas. I believe our engineering department might have put it together, and it's pretty amazing what all's going into place. So it's cool to think about. We're having to put traffic, apparatuses down there in what was, just a few years ago out in the middle of nowhere. So,
Yeah.
right.
Okay,
Exciting
please
development
vote.
out there.
5 yes, in ordinance amending the city code of the city of West Des Moines, Iowa, 2019 by amending provisions pertaining to the traffic code relating to official traffic controls.
Move approval of the first reading.
Second.
All right, please vote.
5 yes.
7D, amendment to City Code Title 6, Motor Vehicles and Traffic, Chapter 9, Traffic Schedules, Section 3, Special Yield Required, Southwest Grand Prairie Parkway and Veterans Parkway. This also is an ordinance for the first reading.
Move consideration of the first reading.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, questions or comments? Okay, please vote.
5 yes, in ordinance amending the city code of the city of West Des Moines, Iowa, 2019 by amending provisions pertaining to the traffic code relating to official traffic controls.
Move approval of the first reading.
Second.
All right, please vote.
5 yes.
7E, Amendment to City Code, Title 6, Motor Vehicles and Traffic, Chapter 9, Traffic Schedule, Section 5, No Parking Zones. Veterans Parkway, east corporate limits to western terminus of Veterans Parkway on the south side. South Grand Prairie Parkway, north of corporate limits to Raccoon River on the west side. Southwest Grand Prairie Parkway, Raccoon River to the southern terminus of South Grand Prairie Parkway on the west side. And 78th Place, EP True Parkway to 185 feet north of EP True Parkway on the west side. This is an ordinance the city initiated, and it's for the first reading as well.
Move consideration of the first reading.
Second.
All right, questions or comments? All right, please vote. Say, Brian, Jim Dickinson's been busy
Yeah, no doubt.
analyzing all this.
And Eric.
5 yes, an ordinance amending the city code of the city of West Des Moines, Iowa, 2019 by amending provisions pertaining to the traffic code relating to official traffic controls.
Move approval of the first reading.
Second.
All right, please vote.
5 yes.
All right, are we on 7E now, Ryan?
7F.
7F.
We're blowing through this stuff.
Amendment to City Code Title 6, Motor Vehicles and Traffic, Chapter 9, Traffic Schedule, Section 10, Special Speed Zones. Veterans Parkway, east corporate limits to the western terminus of Veterans Parkway. City initiated. This is an ordinance for the first reading.
Move consideration of the first reading.
Second.
Questions or comments? Okay, please vote.
Five yes, an ordinance amending the city code of the city of West Des Moines, Iowa, 2019 by amending provisions pertaining to the traffic code relating to official traffic controls.
Move approval of the first reading.
Second.
Okay, please vote.
5 yes.
7G, Amendment to City Code Title 6, Motor Vehicles and Traffic, Chapter 9, Traffic Schedule, Section 12, Truck Routes. Veterans Parkway, east corporate limits to the western terminus of Veterans Parkway. South Grand Prairie Parkway, north corporate limits to Raccoon River. And Southwest Grand Prairie Parkway, Raccoon River to the southern terminus of South Grand Prairie Parkway. City initiated this also as an ordinance for the first reading.
Move.
Second.
Questions or comments? Okay, please vote. Old business is going to be long, Ryan, at the next meeting.
It is.
Can we delay that to January?
Gee, why would you want to do that?
I don't know, just a thought.
I know Greg and Matt are here. They'd like you guys to get
Greg
this
and Matt,
over with.
maybe
Done now.
you'd like a little.
Haven't left yet.
That's a good sign.
5 yes, an ordinance amending the city code of the city of West Des Moines, Iowa, 2019 by amending provisions pertaining to the traffic code relating to official traffic controls.
Move.
Approval of the first reading. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Okay, please vote.
I'm ready to jump.
5 yes.
7H, relocation to regular city council meetings. Approval to relocate the December 2nd and December 16th city council meetings due to the inaccessibility of the council chambers, which I mentioned before. And both of those meetings will be relocated to the West Des Moines Community School District Learning Resource Center.
Move approval.
Second.
All right, please vote.
So if I vote no, do I stay here?
Yes.
You would definitely stay here no matter what.
Last meeting in here, Jim.
Yeah, that is. Last
My
meeting.
last meeting in here.
Oh, there's our last meeting? Oh, man, oh.
Getting sentimental on us.
Yes.
Item 8, there are no items to receive, file, and/or refer. Item 9, other matters. 9A, we'll ask city staff to give us an update on the vicious dog investigation, then we're happy to open up to, for the residents to make comments. So I don't know, Tom, if you or Dick are going to give the overview of where we're at.
Dick will start, and we also have Chief Scott here to speak to the issue.
Yeah, first, I just wanted to say that Chief Scott and Lieutenant Jody Hayes met with the Meisner family. I think there's there's an indication of that in your packet. And Chief Scott and I also met with the Sears family. I see Ms. Carla Sears and Ms. Carrie, Aaron Sears are here tonight. I did want to start out by apologizing to the Sears family. I've given them a letter, but I think it's probably appropriate if I read this letter as well. This is dated November 12th of 2019. It's addressed to Aaron Sears. Dear Ms. Sears, this correspondence is in regard to the dog bite you suffered on June 1, 2019 from Teo, a pit bull owned by Carrie and Martin Meisner that occurred at 528 9th Street in West Des Moines. As I have previously stated, I want to again apologize to you and your family for indicating that you were bitten because you provoked the dog. It was an incorrect statement as you did not provoke the dog. Rather, the animal control officer believed that the child car seat that you were carrying somehow affected the dog, which may have led to the dog biting you. It was not my intent to suggest that you did anything to make the dog bite you or that you did anything wrong. It was a very poor choice of words. Again, my apologies for this misstatement, and it's signed by me. So I do want to express my apologies for misstatements to you and leading people to believe that the situation was different than it was. With that said, as I said, Chief Scott and Jody Hayes have met with the Meisner family, and as indicated in your packet, we did ask if they would have reconsider their position on keeping the dog. They've decided that they do want to keep the dog. And so I think that was done with some deliberation, that they thought that over. I know the chief met on a Friday and they didn't come back until Monday with a decision on that. As I said, Chief Scott and I did meet with Ms. Sears and Mrs. Sears and Mr. Sears, Ray Sears, on Monday, or excuse me, Tuesday of last week. We had a rather lengthy discussion about several things. As also is indicated in your packet, the Sears are still of the opinion that the dog should have been declared vicious after the first incident on June 1st when Aaron Sears was bitten. As also indicated in your packet, and what the investigation showed was that our animal control officer made that decision not to declare it vicious. And as I stated in the letter, one of the reasons the animal control officer didn't think the dog was vicious was the wound that Ms. Sears suffered, but also that she had felt, the animal control officer, that somehow the car seat that Ms. Sears was carrying had an effect on the dog. The dog does have limited sight, so that was the reason for the non-declaration, if you will, on June 1st. We also talked about the situation between the Sears and the Meisners going forward, and the fact that in late September of this year, a postal carrier was bitten by the dog, and it was a significant bite, to say the least. So the animal control officer at that time designated the dog to be vicious, and rather than having the dog euthanized, they imposed some condition, or she imposed, the animal control officer, conditions on the dog to keep it confined, met the code requirements as they are currently written in our code. They have to provide insurance, proof of insurance. They had to keep it muzzled if it's ever out. They have to have it behind a 6-foot fence with 2 feet in addition buried, and can't go to daycares or any place where children are present. I will point out that we followed up. It wasn't really much more of an investigation because I think most of the facts had been established prior to Ms. Sears coming in last time. But we did meet with, as I said, some other people, the Meisners and the Sears, and also found out through the insurance agent that although the city requires an insurance policy, when the Meisners went to get the policy, they, I believe, indicated that they told the insurance agent that the dog was vicious. It was a statement that we got from the insurance company and the underwriters that the dog was not made known to be vicious to the agent, and therefore the policy was written. The State Farm underwriters also indicated that if that that policy comes up for renewal in next October, that they will not renew the policy. So we've got a position or a situation where the Meisners have said one thing to the police about being vicious when they went to the insurance carrier. Our insurance carrier is telling something other than that, and therefore they felt an obligation, because they did provide that insurance for the dog, that they will honor that policy for at least 1 year. I think there's another issue that I would suggest the council consider and maybe provide some direction, is that it's my belief and understanding that when it was determined that the dog was vicious but shouldn't be euthanized but instead confined, that the animal control officer, Officer Kleckner, making that decision, didn't know the consequence of that placement at 532 9th Street, the Meisner residence. And that, of course, is that the post office has now refused to deliver mail to anyone in the neighborhood. We've worked fairly, let's just say we've had several contacts with the postal carriers or the Postal Service. They have not made a final determination at this time as far as delivering mail, but they have given a pretty strong indication that as long as the dog is at 532 9th Street, they will not deliver mail, at least in that area, if not on the whole block. So I know the chief has some things he might like to say, but I might add that, or I might request that perhaps direction be given that the chief and I meet with the Meisners to try and clarify these issues that have come up. The fact that they didn't let the insurance carrier know the dog was vicious. They might have an explanation. They said they did say that, as well as perhaps now that this new information has been known, made available about the postal carrier and not being able to deliver mail, that we might go back to the Meisners and express that to them, because I think it's probably true that, again, we might not have put the dog down, but we might not have recommended that the placement occur at the Meisner residence. So if we have a conversation with the Meisners, talk to them about that, indicate that if it's the direction of the council that they would want that dog placed elsewhere, and see what the Meisners have to say about that. So
Are the Meisners here? No. And we'll have Chief Scott share with us too. I guess, Dick, it'd be nice to get the post office to say, yeah, if the dog is no longer in West Des Moines, we'll deliver the postage to their houses again. I don't know why that's such a hard
they pretty much,
decision.
they told me that.
They've said that.
And I think they've told Chief Scott that as well, so.
That they will deliver it to your home if the dog's gone. Okay.
Right.
All right.
But Dick, do we not, with our animal control laws or ordinances, do we not have as part of that ordinance that none of the metro cities are allowed to have the dog moved to another one of the metro cities?
It can't be taken out of the city. Now, I do believe that and I've called around to some places and have not received word back.
So the dog would have to go to a farm or something to that
Or
effect?
we would have to impose those conditions and get approval from the jurisdiction to which we might want to transfer it. And I don't know if they would give that or not, but right now our ordinance wouldn't allow that movement of that dog.
Well, it seems like from the last education we received, after months and months and months of litigation, that there actually are some facilities around the country that take troubled dogs.
There's one in Utah, there's one in Idaho. I did speak to a lady at Animal Rescue League, and she's not aware of any place in Iowa that's veterinarian certified, I think is the term they use, that would take a dog of this nature.
All right, Chief Scott, it's all yours.
I'm not sure I really have a lot more to bring to the table, Your Honor and Council. Chris Scott, Chief of Police, West Des Moines. Appreciate Erin Sears and her mom for being here today, and the conversations that we were allowed to have the other day with them to, not necessarily walk away from the table in agreement, but had a conversation as to where we were and where they were. I did meet with the Postal Service this morning, and I don't want to speak on their behalf, but I'm confident in saying that it's unlikely we'll see mail delivery so long as the dog is at that residence. The conversation that you're having right now is, does our municipal code allow us some other options? And those options being, okay, what else can we do if the dog's at the house, in essence, until they violate the code? And then we can take additional action against them. But what if that's not the best case scenario? And so the question is, what's the flexibility that we need or that we need to create in our code to allow us some other options with that dog? And I think that's a conversation that Dick and I had this afternoon.
I might say, though, we have told the Meisners that the dog could be kept at the house under these conditions. So given the fact that there's new information or information that wasn't considered by the animal control officer at the time, I think it's only fair to go to them. And if they're not willing to somehow place the dog somewhere else, I think it's only fair that they have some ability to address, in this case, I believe it would probably be the council for that limited purpose, so that they can explain their situation and you can make a determination if that's if they're opposed to this recommendation. And if one side or the other is not happy with however the council decides, then there's always an appeal to district court. But it would be limited for that purpose only, I think would be appropriate.
So Dick, let me ask you this, the insurance policy, if the insurance company's already saying, well, they didn't tell us it was a vicious dog, we would have never issued the policy, we did anyway, we're gonna honor it, but we're not gonna renew it, then that's a condition of having the dog. So ultimately, come next October.
It'll be 1 year from now that we'll have to make this decision, and now they could probably go out and perhaps find insurance somewhere else or with State Farm, but obviously it's gonna be at a much higher premium.
Well, they'd have to disclose that the dog is vicious, otherwise.
They wouldn't have to, they didn't this time.
Well, but it surprises me the insurance company's not revoking the policy because it's almost, it's a misrepresentation on the application if that's the case.
Well, and
If they were denied the insurance coverage, then they're against our city ordinance currently. And then we could
Right, that's a
ask them to do
condition of
something different with the dog. But right now, they're in compliance.
I have to say, it sounds as if it was a don't ask, don't tell. They didn't say anything, and they didn't, and the insurance company didn't ask, and so the insurance company now feels compelled to provide coverage for this first year, and then they're gonna. My understanding is that they will not renew.
I'm not sure I understand what we're being asked to do here. This is a 9A. I think I understand the facts of what's going on.
I think I'm just asking that if I suggest this recommendation that we go back to the Meisners and ask them, can you explain these two discrepancies, or the one with the insurance and the other one is that you understand we, being the animal control officer, didn't have all the information before them at the time that we're.
I guess
They didn't know that
I'm probably
That
not
the post
that
office
patient.
wouldn't deliver, and that
Yeah.
the insurance information was not
The
accurate.
second meeting we've had that they haven't been here, I think,
That I don't
as
understand.
far as I'm concerned, we've kind of
Why are they not here?
exercised all our
I don't
options.
know that we
so-
noticed, we didn't provide notice, I mean, other than.
But they knew it was, I gotta believe they knew it was gonna be discussed.
Yeah. I mean, I'm ready to.
We did reach out today by
Take whatever
phone.
steps are necessary.
Well, I would just say to Councilmember Michelson that we do still have a process that we need to
We have to
follow.
follow.
Let's
and-
vote on it. Let's go.
And so if you want to provide that direction to me, we can meet with them, and if they want to come back before the council, make an explanation after some notice for that limited purpose, and then whatever's decided, the party that's not, the aggrieved party, if you will, can take a district court appeal.
So let me ask you this, Dick, if you and Chief Scott go meet with the Meisners again, and I hope you do, and I hope you convince them that they need to have this dog removed, because these people need their mail. We've had 2 incidents. There looks like there's misinformation. And if they refuse to do that, can it come back to the council on the ordinance, and the council can vote to have the dog removed from the city?
Right, we would set it for a hearing so that they would have their due process. They can come in for that purpose to say why they don't think it should be removed. You can make a decision, and then if anybody wants to take an appeal, it could go to district court.
Dick, at the last meeting, I brought up the fact that I had been told that the dog came to West Des Moines because it was declared vicious someplace else. Did you look into that? Because my understanding, again, that the dog initially was owned by the son, I believe his name's Chase, and that's when the dog came to West Des Moines. Were you able to find anything as to where he used to live?
He lived
And
in Grimes, and we called Grimes. Grimes said Polk County does their work, the chief, and we've checked it out. They don't keep records, so we are not able to actually determine whether or not that dog had bit anyone in the past.
However, I will say, had the dog been involved in a bite that was reported and it would have been investigated, they would have had documentation of that, and I wasn't able to find anything through Polk County Sheriff's Office records or Des Moines, and all of those are in the same records management system. So I'm confident in telling you, at least based on what we know locally, that that did not happen.
Okay,
but
so
we don't know necessarily where he lived back clear to, I think it's 13 or 14 when the dog came to West Des
I
Moines. Was
think
that looked at?
whoever made the comment that I think they lived in Grimes for a while, I think that's accurate. I think there was some houses in Des Moines. I think that was accurate. So during the course, I think the dog might be 4 years old. In the last 4 years where this person's lived, there's no reports of any animal bites as him being the owner.
Okay, okay.
Okay, Renee, and then I want to summarize where I think we're at, and then we.
I too feel that we all on this council, I think, feel that there's not one dog that should hold a whole neighborhood hostage, right? And so I think that it is behooved on us to decide what direction we're going, what we're expecting of the Meisners, and not allow these neighbors to be so terrorized. I love animals like no tomorrow. I have a dog myself, and so it's not about that. But it is about a postal office saying they are no longer going to be walking that block to deliver mail to citizens who are paying taxes, that mail should be delivered to them. So I feel like we're kind of they're being held hostage about a dog. I'm not into euthanizing dogs. I don't like that process, but I do think we've got to get real about how does one dog affect a whole block of citizens and after all that the dog has done? So we've got to make some decisions and move forward.
I think based on the ordinance and what I'm hearing from the city attorney is, in order to make sure that we're compliant, because these people will have a right to appeal if they don't like the decision, and we've been sued and we've gone through this before, that I think the direction, we can't vote tonight, but the direction I think that you guys are being asked to provide is, let the city attorney and the chief of police meet with the Meisners, let them have the conversation about the need to remove the dog based on insurance issues, whatever it might be. And if the Meisners refuse, then it's coming back to the city council to vote on whether or not you want that, to force them to remove the dog from the city. That's the process that has to be followed. And I guess, in fairness to the residents, the faster we can do this, the better, because this has been going on for a long time.
Absolutely. And what troubles me is the fact that since, I guess, day one, when Aaron Sears was bit, the Meisners act like this is not a vicious dog, that's not his personality. And I listened to a security camera tape when the postal carrier was bit, and Mrs. Meisner can be heard on that recording saying, I don't know why he did it, he's not that way. And then the postal carrier responds with, well, he's approached me, aggressively before, but this is the first time he's actually bit me. So they've got a pattern here, and now they're lying to the insurance company. And I don't fault the insurance company for not asking, because I know there's a lot of cities out there that if you have a pit bull, you have to have X number of dollars of insurance. So they've got a pit bull, okay, fine, you got to have this insurance, no big deal. But the Meisners knew that the dog had already been declared vicious. They should have offered that information. So they're trying to hide the facts of what's going on to then get the insurance to say, see, we're complying.
Well, we're not saying they're lying, we're just saying there's a conflict in what was said and take
So
it for what it's.
So we have a council meeting in 2 weeks. Let's make sure we have an agenda item on here in case the
Yes.
Meisners say that they are going to insist that they keep the dog, so that we can have the appropriate hearing before the council on what the next step is in this process. But I think you can share with them pretty emphatically that the consensus is this dog needs to leave the city of West Des Moines.
Absolutely.
Find a different placement, obviously. yeah.
Anything else from the residents? I mean, that's the ordinance. We can't do anything any quicker than that. And we have to have a public hearing. We've gone through this before, I said before, and we've been sued, and it's been to the Iowa Supreme Court. So we got to make sure we follow the process. We know you've been patient, overly patient. It's going to be hopefully over with within the next 2 weeks.
Come forward.
I would ask too, that in this, I know you guys have a lot on your plate, but if we can find where there might be placements for the Meisners to be able to take a look and talk to some various people, I mean.
I've got calls into 2 other places I haven't heard from yet. so.
Okay.
Take some initiative also, if that's what they want to do.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I thought they would have been here tonight.
So,
What a concept.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
okay. Anything
Anybody have
else you
anything
want
to
to
say?
share with us? Looks like you got voted to speak for your neighborhood.
Hi, my name's Sean Murtha. I live at 539 9th Street. So I kind of want to bring up a couple of things that were said. You said that carrying the car seat is what made him go aggressive. So my thing is, we have a lot of families, kids in car seats. How are any of them safe? I mean, legitimately, they're not safe, obviously, if something like that is going to cause him to attack somebody. And if there's a kid in that car seat, what happens to that kid in the car seat? Those are many of the fears that we have all been sharing and worrying about. Another thing I want to know is, are they supposed to have signage up that says that they have a vicious dog on premises? Because I live across the street, I still have yet to see a sign go up. Oh, okay, there you go. Finally today. It's only taken 2 months for them to do this. So these are the kinds of things that bug me, though, is why are they waiting till the last minute? And it's just because they're trying to be compliant, but how compliant are they really being for our, and like she said, our whole neighborhood right now is being held hostage by one dog. One dog. I am a pit bull owner. Said it last time I was here 2 weeks ago. I own a pit bull. I got my dog training. I got my fences all fixed. Anytime my dog's ever done anything, he used to go under my fence, put 2x4s, stakes in the ground. He can't go into the fence anymore. So I would like to see them do anything to make the situation better. I just haven't seen it. You know, like I posted on the KCCI thing from 2 weeks ago, like, hey, can you at least, you know, get some training, something? And she wants to come back on my post and ha ha ha, thinks it's funny. I don't find it very funny. This is a very serious matter to me. The other thing is you guys were talking about, I don't want to euthanize the dog. I don't want to euthanize a dog either. I love dogs. Like I said, I own a pit bull. Furry Friends Refuge is a place that they told me when I adopted my pit bull puppy 8 years ago, if your dog ever starts to get aggressive, bring that dog back to us. We will hold him for the rest of his life so he does not ever attack anybody else. So that is an option that should be on the table.
And
Furry
I've
Friends Refuge
contacted
is,
Furry Friends, they kind of hit and miss as far as getting back, but they will be back to me, I'm sure. So.
yeah. I mean, that's what they told me 8 years ago. I know when we went and looked at our puppy that we got at that time, they had one there that was similar in situation where they're like, you can try and see how he reacts. Well, he was too aggressive. They're like, yeah, this dog's going to probably live the rest of his life at Furry Friends Refuge. That's why they take donations. So that is another option that should be put on the table. Because like I said, I don't want to see the dog put down. I'd love to see them do training. You do training, I'm going to get off your back. But as you continue to do nothing, I have a hard time feeling safe in my front yard. I got a 12-year-old son. You know, last time I was here, I said we were out there doing leaves. I had to keep reminding my kid, don't turn your back to that house because if that dog comes out, what happens to you? Yes, I'm out here, but what's saying I'm going to be able to react fast enough to stop this dog from attacking a 12-year-old kid? And if that dog kills my kid, I can't tell you guys what's going to happen on our block. Everybody is going to freak out because it's something that should never get to that point. We shouldn't be worried that, oh my God, you know, obviously anything can happen. We live in a world where literally anything can happen, but we know that this dog is a problem. So I just think that it's time that we all do something about it.
Dick, one other thing too that I just thought of. You had talked about when you were talking about the ordinance, that the things that couldn't happen. It couldn't go to doggy daycare, you know, this and that. And you also said that it couldn't be around children, correct? The Meisners babysit a child because, again, in this video I saw, it's clearly a little kid, probably 4 years old, that, I don't know, lives there all the time, part-time, what, but there's a small child there.
I think
So,
the chief's aware of that as well.
but then aren't they in violation of the ordinance?
Well, the ordinance says that they cannot bring it to gatherings of children and daycare and parks and those sorts of things. So the fact that it's their own, I believe it's their grandchild, is a little bit different, and I can't tell you if we can actually step in. That's kind of a decision that they make themselves.
Well, the next step is for the chief and the city attorney to meet with the Meisners, and hopefully they agree to have the dog removed from the city of West Des Moines. We're not asking them the dog put down, but have it out, have it moved from our city limits. And if they refuse to, then the council's going to get an opportunity to vote on that at the next council meeting. We want to make sure we follow the ordinance. We want to make sure we document the information. We've been through this multiple times. And so hopefully in the next 2 weeks, at least everything that we can do up here, we will have done.
Okay, sounds good.
Come up.
Yeah, you're going to have to
Come on up.
here.
Thanks for your time.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate it. Very well said.
I'm Erin Sears. I live at 1115 27th Street, Des Moines. I want to thank you all again for hearing us and hearing this issue. I want to thank the city attorney for his public apology. I appreciate that. A couple questions regarding moving forward. So I understand that due process has to be done. My first question is about the Postal Service. It seemed to be in this kind of region where they were still trying to make a decision about whether or not they were going to place this box. And my concern is that in this interim period where we're waiting and following the procedures, that they might decide to place this box, and then the issue of ever getting mail service back would be over. Like it would, they seem to had indicated that if they place this box, you're never getting home delivery back. So can the city do something in terms of speaking with the Postal Service and saying, we're working on it, we're following due process, we're having another meeting in 2 weeks to prevent that from happening?
I raised that question when I talked to them, and they assured me that they would not do anything until there was a final determination made. So we will contact them again to just let them know the process that we're following. But they said, no, they wouldn't do that until everything was finally determined.
Great.
Good.
Thank you for making that clear. And then my other question is, so the Meisners, all throughout this experience of quarantine and things that are recorded that they've had to go through after my dog bite, the dog was on quarantine, and after the vicious attack to the mail carrier, the dog was on quarantine. And they have had parties and huge gatherings at their home. They had a party the first night of quarantine that was reported, and then the dog got picked up and taken to Furry Friends for quarantine on their site because they had violated the home quarantine. So if we do see something occurring to that nature, something that is a clear violation of code, like a party happening, a gathering where they have people over, is it appropriate for the people in the neighborhood to then notify the authorities, or what happens in that time period?
Why don't you notify the city attorney?
Okay, he really enjoys me. We'll do that. I'm sure the city attorney never wants to see me again. I don't live on 9th Street, so I'm probably not the person who would witness it, but I'm just asking the questions.
But I would say too, if it's off hours, not during the week, if you just call the non-emergency line to the
Okay.
police and let them know, they could
Okay.
probably go out and check it out as well, so.
Okay, great. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Dick, is there any need for a executive session?
No, no.
Okay, are there any other matters that any council member wants to raise tonight? Okay, if not, we're adjourned.